Anytime the topic of osteoporosis or osteopenia comes up, the conversation usually centers around a specific nutrient or a certain kind of diet or sun exposure and the importance of vitamin D or weight-bearing exercise and resistance training. All of those factors are super important, no doubt. But there's one factor that's almost always left completely out of these conversations. In this video, you're going to learn all about that factor and how it can help you to not only maintain the health and integrity of your bones, but also to prevent those nasty osteoporotic fractures. Let's get into this.
What role do things like posture play in preventing those fractures that we typically see with osteoporosis?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the most common postural dysfunctions that we see in the modern age is forward head position. Now, it has a bunch of fancy names nowadays: text neck, tech neck, neck hump. People are calling it all these different things, but essentially it's a forward head position. And the root of that problem, Kevin, is that the normal curvature in the neck, which if I'm facing this direction is a backward curve, otherwise known as a lordosis. It's the same type of curve that you have in your lower back, right? Everybody knows what the lower back curve looks like. We have the exact same type of curve in the neck. These are known as secondary curves because we're not born with them. The primary curve is what we're born with. That's fetal position, where we're curved forward like a shrimp, okay? And then anybody who has kids knows that first thing that kid starts to do is lift their head up by themselves. As they're lifting their head up, they're training that normal backward curve into the neck. And it's done very intelligently that curve helps to support the weight of the head. So essentially think of like a golf ball sitting on a tee, right? We have this big structure sitting on a little structure, which is the neck. The skeletal structure of the neck is tiny compared to the skull, right? So there's a lot of weight to hold up there. And the body puts that curve in to minimize the amount of effort that's required to hold that weight. So it's an efficiency model, which is absolutely necessary for the only species that walks upright on 2 feet 100% of the time, right? We need to minimize our energy expenditure so that we can, again, it's like pain, it's to ensure survivability. So what we're seeing nowadays is that because of an abundance of what are called flexion-based activities, this is where the head is down, we're looking at our phones or our smartwatches or our laptop computers or whatever it may be. We spend an inordinate amount of time looking downward nowadays. And what we end up doing is actually training that curve out of the neck. And the problem with that is you're making the body measurably less efficient. You're increasing the workload on the body. So here's what happens in a nutshell. For every inch that the head shifts forward in front of the gravity line, in front of its optimal position, it gains 10 pounds of functional weight. Okay, so to better understand that, think of holding a dumbbell here, like tight to your body, and a 10-pound dumbbell, because that head weighs about 10 pounds. You start inching it out, you can imagine how much heavier that dumbbell feels, even though it still weighs 10 pounds. You can imagine how much harder your bicep muscle and your shoulder has to work to hold it way out here than it does when it's in close, right? Same thing happens to the head. So when you do this for extended periods of time, you actually train that curve out of the neck. Now, what the body will intelligently do in response to this, and this is a very long answer to get back to your question, is it's going to take your middle back and shift it outward. So head goes this way, mid back shifts this way. Okay. The problem with that, Kevin, is that is there to counterbalance the head weight. But when you have a vertebrae that's shaped like this, when you look at it from the side, when you shift it out, you start compressing the front end almost like a slice of pizza. And where do you see the fractures with osteoporosis? Right at the front edge of the vertebrae. It's due to overload in that position. And I would put forth the bet, if we were going to Las Vegas, that anybody who has fractures at the front portion of the vertebrae has a forward head position, i.e. a loss of the normal curvature in the neck, which means if you extrapolate that, if you can maintain the normal secondary curves in your body, you can evenly distribute the stress across the entirety of the vertebrae, thereby lessening the chances of getting those types of compression fractures.
That was probably the best explanation I've ever heard of forward head posture connection to bone health and even in your spine. I bet a lot of people listening and watching right now maybe sat up a little bit straighter and did a little push their chin back a little bit as they were listening to that. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you'll put the information to good use. If you want to find out more about posture correction and the most effective means I've ever found for permanently fixing posture, click the link in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Before you do that, though, make sure to click that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel so that you're updated when the next video comes out. That's all for now. See you next time.